The frost-covered sensors blinked in rhythm with Liam's breathing, creating small clouds of condensation in the morning air. He adjusted the thermal scope mounted on the observation tower, scanning the tree line where civilization ended and the territory of the apex predators began. The neural interface in his helmet processed thousands of data points, temperature fluctuations, movement patterns, pheromone traces, all flowing into the central monitoring system of Outpost 9. 3 years. That's how long he'd been stationed at this remote frontier, watching the invisible line that separated humanity's expanding settlements from the domain of creatures that had evolved far beyond their ancestors. The genetic upheaval of the previous century had transformed Earth's predators into something more intelligent, more coordinated, and infinitely more dangerous. Morning scan complete, Liam spoke into his comm unit. No incursions detected. Perimeter integrity at 100%. Copy that, Liam. Commander Mara Brennan's voice crackled through the static. Weather system moving in from the north. Visibility expected to drop by noon. Liam descended from the tower, his boots crunching on the frozen ground. The outpost consisted of reinforced structures, arranged in a defensive pattern, each building connected by underground tunnels. Beyond the electric barriers and motion sensors lay the buffer zone, a kilometer-wide strip of cleared land designed to give early warning of any approach. He entered the command center where holographic displays showed real-time data from hundreds of sensors scattered throughout the region. Mara stood before the main screen, her weathered face reflecting years of frontier duty. Coffee's fresh, she said, without looking away from the displays. Might be the last hot cup if this storm hits as predicted. Liam poured himself a mug, savoring the warmth. The apex pack moved further north yesterday. Hunting patterns suggest they're following the caribou migration. Good. The further they stay from the mining operations, the better. Mara finally turned to face him. Speaking of which, we've got newcomers. Mining crew arrived last night. 30 workers, heavy equipment. They're setting up camp near Sector 4. A knot formed in Liam's stomach. Sector 4 bordered the traditional hunting grounds. That's too close. Did anyone brief them on the protocols? Standard orientation scheduled for this afternoon. You know how it goes, they see credits, not risks. The conversation was interrupted by an alarm. Not the sharp wail of an incursion alert, but the lower tone indicating sensor anomaly. Liam moved to the nearest terminal, fingers flying across the interface. Sensor Cluster 7-3 reporting irregular readings, he reported. Could be weather interference, but you want to check it out. Mara's tone carried a hint of approval. Take the rover, full gear. Within minutes, Liam was suited up in his environment armor, a sophisticated blend of protection and sensor integration that made him a walking detection system. The rover hummed to life, its hydrogen cells providing silent propulsion across the rough terrain. Sensor Cluster 7-3 sat at the edge of a ravine, partially hidden by accumulated snow. As Liam approached, his suit's proximity alerts remained silent. No large life forms detected. Yet something had triggered the anomaly. He dismounted and approached on foot, weapon lowered but ready. The snow here was disturbed, showing signs of recent activity. His helmet's display highlighted heat traces too small for adult apex predators, but definitely biological. Then he heard it, a sound that made his blood run cold. Not a roar or growl, but a high-pitched whine of distress. Young ones. Liam crept forward, every instinct screaming danger. Adult apex predators were fiercely protective of their offspring. To encounter cubs alone meant either the parents were dead or they were very close by. He found them in a shallow depression behind the sensor array. 2 cubs, no bigger than large dogs, their distinctive silver-gray fur matted with blood. One lay motionless, its hind leg grotesquely twisted. The other, slightly larger, stood protectively over its sibling, baring teeth that were already impressively sharp. But it was what held them that made Liam's anger flare. A snare, crude but effective, had caught the injured cub's leg. The metal wire had cut deep, and the creature's struggles had only worsened the damage. "Damn poachers," Liam muttered. The penalty for hunting apex predators was severe, but some still tried, lured by black market prices for their enhanced organs and fur. The standing cub growled, a sound too mature for its small frame. Liam slowly reached for his medical kit, movements deliberate and non-threatening. "Easy there. I'm not going to hurt you." His suit's translation matrix attempted to process the cub's vocalizations, converting growls and body language into rough meaning. The display showed danger, protection, fear, pain. Liam activated his comm. "Outpost 9, this is Liam. I've got a situation at 7-3. 2 apex cubs caught in illegal snares, 1 badly injured, no sign of adults." "Negative on approach, Liam." Mara's response was immediate. "Mark the location and fall back. We'll send a removal team." He looked at the injured cub, its breathing shallow and rapid. By the time a team arrived, it would be dead. The other cub would likely stay, refusing to abandon its sibling, making them both easy targets for whoever set the snares. "Commander, the injured one won't last that long. Requesting permission to intervene." A long pause. "That's not protocol, Liam. You know what happens if the adults return." "I'll be quick. My suit shows no adult signatures within 2 kilometers. Another pause. "Your call. But if this goes sideways, it's on you." Liam approached slowly, hands visible. The healthy cub's growls intensified, but it didn't attack. When he was within arm's reach, Liam activated his suit's pheromone neutralizer, a feature designed to mask human scent that often triggered aggressive responses. Working quickly, he examined the snare. The wire was designed to tighten with struggle, a cruel but effective trap. The cub's leg was badly damaged, bones visible through torn flesh. "This is going to hurt," Liam said, knowing the cubs couldn't understand his words, but hoping his tone conveyed intent. He produced a nano-injector from his kit, loaded with a broad-spectrum painkiller designed for large mammals. The healthy cub watched intently as Liam administered the injection. Within seconds, the injured one's whimpers quieted. Now for the hard part. Liam pulled out his plasma cutter, its beam capable of slicing through the wire without jarring the wound. The healthy cub tensed, recognizing a weapon, but didn't attack. Perhaps it understood, on some level, that Liam was helping. The wire parted with a soft hiss. Immediately, Liam applied biofoam to the wound, a miraculous substance that would stop bleeding, prevent infection, and promote rapid healing. The foam hardened into a protective shell that would dissolve as the injury healed. "There," Liam said, sitting back on his heels. "That should—" His suit's proximity alarms exploded into life. Multiple large signatures, approaching fast from the north, the parents. Liam's training took over. He backed away from the cubs, weapon raised but not aimed. The healthy cub's demeanor changed instantly, from defensive to expectant. It called out a unique vocalization that Liam's translator tagged as "family, safety, here." They emerged from the tree line like ghosts given form. 3 adult apex predators, their forms rippling with barely contained power. The largest, clearly the matriarch, stood 3 meters at the shoulder. Her eyes, too intelligent for any natural predator, fixed on Liam with laser focus. His suit's combat system screamed warnings, calculating attack vectors and suggesting defensive positions. Liam ignored them all. Running would trigger pursuit instincts. Fighting was suicide. His only option was to stand perfectly still and hope. The matriarch approached, her movement fluid despite her massive size. She passed Liam without a glance, going straight to her cubs. Her examination was thorough, sniffing the injured one's treated wound, nuzzling the healthy one. The other 2 adults, likely the father and an older sibling, flanked Liam. He could hear their breathing, feel the heat radiating from their bodies. One wrong move, and he'd be torn apart. The matriarch finished her examination and turned to face Liam. For a long moment, predator and human regarded each other. Her head tilted slightly, a gesture almost curious. Then she did something that would haunt Liam's dreams for weeks to come. She spoke, not in words, but in a complex series of vocalizations that his translator struggled to process. The display flickered through multiple interpretations before settling on, "You help, Cubs why question." Liam's throat was desert dry. The apex predators had shown signs of enhanced intelligence, but actual communication attempts were unprecedented. He lowered his weapon slowly, then spread his hands in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. "They were hurt," he said, letting his suit broadcast the translation. "I helped." The matriarch processed this, her massive head swaying slightly. Then she moved closer, close enough that Liam could see his reflection in her eyes. She sniffed him, her breath hot against his suit. Human, strange, no fear, no hate, confused. Before Liam could respond, she turned away. At some invisible signal, the other adults picked up the cubs, the father taking the injured one with surprising gentleness. They began moving back toward the forest. At the tree line, the matriarch paused and looked back. Her final vocalization was clearer than the others. "Remember you, debt acknowledged." Then they were gone, vanishing into the wilderness as if they'd never been there at all. Liam stood frozen for several minutes, processing what had just happened. First contact. Actual communication with apex predators. The implications were staggering. His comm crackled. "Liam, your vitals just spiked off the charts. Report." "I'm okay," he managed. "Returning to base. We need to talk." The ride back was a blur. Liam's mind raced through the encounter, analyzing every moment. The cubs in snares, the adults' measured response, the matriarch's attempt at communication. It challenged everything they thought they knew about the apex predators. Back at the outpost, Liam found himself in a packed briefing room. Word of his encounter had spread quickly. Mara stood at the front, her expression unreadable. "Tell them everything," she ordered. "Don't leave out a single detail." For the next hour, Liam recounted the event, supplemented by footage from his suit's recorders. The room was silent, except for his voice and the occasional gasp as the video showed the matriarch's approach. When he finished, Dr. Sarah Kincaid, the outpost's xenobiologist, was the first to speak. "This changes our entire understanding. If they're capable of complex communication, of understanding abstract concepts like debt and gratitude." "They're not just animals," finished Marcus Torres, head of security. "They're a sapient species." "Which complicates our situation immensely," Mara added. "The mining operations, the expansion permits, everything assumes we're dealing with dangerous but non-sapient predators." "There's another issue," Liam interjected. "The snares. Someone's actively hunting them, and close to our perimeter. That's not just illegal if the apex predators connect those traps to humans in general." He didn't need to finish. Everyone understood the implications. The fragile peace between species could shatter if the apex predators saw humanity as a threat to their young. Mara stood. "Effective immediately. We're implementing new protocols. Liam, you're taking point on this. I want daily patrols of the buffer zone, looking for more traps. Marcus, increase surveillance on the mining camp. If any of them are involved in poaching, I want to know." "What about the communication aspect?" Dr. Kincaid asked. "This could be the breakthrough we've been hoping for." "One step at a time," Mara cautioned. "Liam, did your translator capture enough data to improve our communication matrix?" Liam nodded. "The suit recorded everything. With analysis, we might be able to establish basic vocabulary." "Do it, but carefully. We don't know how the apex predators will react to further contact attempts." Mara's gaze swept the room. What happened today stays classified until further notice. The last thing we need is panic among the civilians or treasure hunters thinking they can communicate their way to riches. The meeting dispersed, but Dr. Kincaid lingered. Liam, I'd like to review your suit data immediately. The biological readings alone could revolutionize our understanding. Of course, Liam transferred the files, his mind still processing the day's events. Doctor, what I felt out there, it wasn't just intelligence. There was something deeper, understanding, maybe even empathy. She nodded thoughtfully. Evolution doesn't just enhance physical attributes. If the apex predators developed enhanced cognitive abilities, emotional complexity would follow. They might experience feelings as deep as our own, just expressed differently. That night, Liam stood watch in the observation tower, but his attention kept drifting to the forest. Somewhere out there, an injured cub was healing thanks to human intervention. Its mother had acknowledged a debt, a concept that required understanding of past, present, and future obligations. His thermal scope picked up movement at the forest edge. For a moment, he thought he saw eyes reflecting in the darkness, watching, evaluating. Then they were gone. The storm Mara had predicted arrived with vengeance, blanketing the outpost in swirling snow. Visibility dropped to mere meters, rendering most sensors useless. It was the perfect cover for illicit activity. Which is why Liam wasn't entirely surprised when motion sensors in Sector 4 triggered at 3 in the morning. The alarm was subtle. Someone had tried to mask their presence but hadn't done a perfect job. He suited up quietly, not wanting to alert potential poachers. The storm would mask his approach as effectively as theirs. Moving through the underground tunnels, he emerged near the mining camp, the prefab structures dark except for emergency lighting. His suit's enhanced vision cut through the storm, revealing fresh tracks leading away from the camp toward the forest. Multiple sets, moving with purpose. Liam followed, weapon ready. He found them 2 kilometers out, setting snares along what his mapping software identified as a game trail. 3 figures in mining gear, working quickly despite the storm. Their conversation carried on the wind. Said these things go for 50,000 credits on the black market. One good catch and we're set for life. Assuming we don't get caught or eaten. Relax. In this storm, nothing's moving. We'll check the traps tomorrow. Be gone before anyone notices. Liam activated his suit's recording function and stepped into view. Gentlemen, interesting night for a walk. The 3 men spun around, one reaching for what looked like a modified mining laser. Liam's weapon was already aimed. I wouldn't, he said calmly. Assault on frontier personnel carries a mandatory 20-year sentence. Add that to poaching endangered species, and you're looking at life. The man with the laser Liam's HUD identified him as Jake Morrison, slowly lowered his hand. We weren't doing anything wrong, just checking equipment. Really, because my suit recorded you discussing black market prices. Liam gestured to the half-set snare. And that's definitely not mining equipment. The youngest of the 3, barely out of his teens, broke. It was Jake's idea. He said no one would miss a few animals, that the company wasn't paying us enough for hazard work. Shut up, Tommy, Jake snarled. The 3rd man remained silent, but Liam's suit flagged him as Ryan Decker, a name that appeared in several poaching investigations across multiple colonies. A professional. Then, here's what's going to happen, Liam said. You're going to dismantle every trap you've set. Then you're coming back to the outpost for processing. Cooperate, and maybe the magistrate shows leniency. Decker spoke for the first time. And if we don't? Liam smiled grimly. Then I leave you out here and let the Apex Pack know who's been targeting their cubs. I'm sure they'd love to discuss it with you personally. The color drained from Tommy's face. Even Jake looked uneasy. They'd all heard stories about what apex predators did to threats. You're bluffing, Decker said, but uncertainty colored his voice. Am I? Liam pulled up his suit's footage from the morning, projecting it onto the swirling snow. The image of the matriarch filled the night, her intelligent eyes seeming to look right through them. "She and I have an understanding now. Want to test it?" The men dismantled the snares without further argument. Liam supervised, ensuring they missed nothing. By the time they finished, dawn was breaking through the dissipating storm. The march back to the outpost was silent, except for the crunch of snow. Liam's proximity sensors remained quiet, but he had the persistent feeling of being watched. Once, he caught a glimpse of movement in his peripheral vision, too large to be wind-blown debris. They were being escorted. At the outpost, Marcus took custody of the poachers. Mara met Liam in her office, exhaustion evident in her features. "3 down," she said. "But if Decker's involved, there's a larger operation. These apex organs are funding something bigger." "Agreed. He's too professional for opportunistic poaching." Liam uploaded his suit data. "Commander, we had shadows on the return trip. The Apex Pack knew what was happening." Mara studied the footage, zooming in on barely visible heat signatures paralleling their route. "They're learning our patterns, adapting to our presence." "Or protecting us," Liam suggested. "Those poachers were in their territory. The pack could have attacked but didn't. Because you were there, the one who helped their cub." Mara leaned back. "You've become significant to them, Liam. That's both an opportunity and a danger." Over the following days, Liam threw himself into analyzing the communication data. Working with Dr. Kincaid, they began building a rudimentary translation matrix. The apex predator language was complex, a blend of vocalizations, body language, and what appeared to be pheromone signals their suits could barely detect. "Look at this," Dr. Kincaid said during one late-night session. "The vocalization you translated as det has 17 subtle variations. Each seems to indicate different types of obligation: social, familial, survival-based. They have a concept of social contracts," Liam mused. "Rules governing interaction. Probably evolved from pack dynamics, but far more sophisticated. Which means they can be negotiated with treaties, agreements, boundaries, all possible if we can communicate effectively." A knock interrupted them. Marcus entered, his expression grim. "We've got a problem. Decker's people broke him out during transport to the detention facility. 2 guards dead." Liam's blood ran cold. "He'll come back for revenge, or to finish what he started. Already increased perimeter security, but in this terrain, a determined team could slip through." Marcus hesitated. "There's something else. The mining camp is reporting equipment failures. Looks like sabotage. The Apex Pack. No evidence, but the timing is suspicious. Maybe they're sending their own message about unwanted guests." Liam stood. "I need to patrol the buffer zone. If Decker's planning something, that's where he'll strike." He found the first sign 3 hours later, fresh tracks crossing the cleared area, heading for the forest. But these weren't human prints. They were apex predator tracks, dozens of them, all moving in the same direction. His suit's analysis was disturbing. Multiple family groups converging, behavior typically seen only during mating season or when facing a major threat. Liam followed the trail, dread building with each step. The tracks led to a canyon system that cut deep into apex territory. His sensors detected elevated electromagnetic readings, technology that didn't belong in the wilderness. As he crept closer, voices carried on the wind. Explosive charges set along the canyon walls. "When they gather for their little meeting, we bring the whole thing down. 100 dead apex predators. Easy." Decker. The man had escalated from poaching to genocide. Liam counted at least a dozen heat signatures in the canyon, all armed. His suit identified mining explosives, enough to collapse several square kilometers of terrain. The apex predators were walking into a massacre. He activated his emergency beacon, sending location data to the outpost, but knew help wouldn't arrive in time. The convergence was happening now, He could see apex predators gathering on the canyon rim, unaware of the danger below. Among them, a familiar figure, the matriarch, her cubs beside her. The injured one moved with a slight limp, but was otherwise healthy. They'd come to what appeared to be a traditional gathering place, probably used for generations. Liam had seconds to decide. Warn the humans and reveal his presence, likely getting shot in the process, or warn the apex predators and hope they understood. He chose a third option. Circling around the canyon, he found the detonator relay a critical weakness in Decker's plan. All the charges were linked to a single transmission point for synchronized detonation. Disable that, and the explosives were useless. But it was guarded. 2 men with military-grade weapons, alert and professional. Liam would have to be perfect. He approached downwind, using every stealth technique learned in 3 years of frontier duty. The storm had left snowdrifts that provided cover, but also threatened to reveal his approach with any wrong step. 20 meters, 10, 5. One guard turned, perhaps sensing something. Liam lunged, his suit's strength enhancement allowing him to cover the distance in a heartbeat. His shock baton found the guard's neck, dropping him instantly. The second guard spun, weapon rising, but Liam was already moving. A thrown knife, primitive but silent, caught the man in the shoulder, spinning him around. A follow-up strike rendered him unconscious. Liam dragged both men behind cover and examined the relay. Standard mining tech, repurposed for destruction. He could disable it, but Decker would notice the lost signal immediately. Unless... Working quickly, Liam reprogrammed the relay to broadcast an all-clear signal while blocking the detonation command. It would buy time, but not much. He was about to retreat when motion sensors screamed warnings. Apex predators, moving to surround his position. Had they detected him, identified him as part of the threat? The matriarch emerged from cover, her massive form blocking any escape route. But her posture wasn't aggressive. If anything, she seemed expectant. "Human, you again, danger question," his translator offered. Liam pointed toward the canyon where Decker's men waited. "Danger. Trap. Many humans want to kill." The matriarch processed this, her head tilting. Then she did something extraordinary. She vocalized in a pattern Liam had never heard, a complex series of sounds that seemed designed for his translator. "Understood, warned, grateful action question." She was asking what to do. Liam's mind raced. The apex predators could easily overwhelm Decker's team, but the casualties would be severe. Both species would suffer, potentially triggering a wider conflict. "Wait," he said, hoping the concept translated. "My pack comes. We stop bad humans. No death needed." The matriarch studied him for a long moment. Then she turned and vocalized to the gathered pack. The response was immediate apex predators, melting back into cover, surrounding the canyon but not attacking. They were trusting him. Liam's comm unit crackled with Mara's voice. "Strike team ETA 15 minutes. What's your status?" "Complicated," Liam whispered, aware of the dozens of apex predators hidden around him. "Decker's got the canyon rigged to blow. I've disabled the detonator, but he'll figure it out soon. And Commander, I've got company. The entire Apex pack. They know it's a trap." A pause. "Are you in immediate danger?" Liam glanced at the matriarch, who waited with preternatural stillness. "No, they're cooperating, waiting for my signal." "Understood. Keep them calm. We're coming in quiet." The next 10 minutes stretched like hours. Decker's men maintained their positions, unaware they were surrounded by both human forces and apex predators. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the canyon. Then everything went wrong at once. "The relay's down," one of Decker's men shouted. "Detonator's not responding." Decker's voice carried clearly. "Check the..." He stopped mid-sentence, his experienced eye catching something. Movement on the ridge. "It's a trap." Gunfire erupted. Liam's strike team had been spotted approaching from the south. Decker's men opened fire with military precision, forcing the frontier guards to take cover. The apex predators reacted instantly to the violence. Growls rumbled through the canyon like distant thunder. Several younger males began to move forward, hunting instincts triggered by the chaos. No, Liam stood, making himself visible to both sides. Hold positions. The matriarch roared a sound that froze everyone, human and predator alike. The advancing males stopped, submitting to her authority. But Liam could see the tension in their bodies. One wrong move would unleash carnage. Decker spotted Liam and raised his weapon. Time slowed as Liam dove for cover, bullets sparking off the rocks where he'd stood. He rolled behind a boulder, mind racing for solutions. His comm unit buzzed. Marcus's voice, tight with stress. "We're pinned down. Can't advance without casualties." "The Apex Pack wants to attack," Liam reported. "I don't know how long the matriarch can hold them back." "If they attack, we'll have to defend ourselves. It'll be a massacre on both sides." Liam made a decision that would have seemed insane just days ago. He stood again, but this time faced the matriarch. Speaking clearly, letting his translator work. He said, "Need help. Stop bad humans. No killing. Can you understand?" The matriarch's eyes reflected an intelligence that made Liam's skin crawl. She vocalized slowly, as if choosing her words carefully. "Understand, difficult, pack, hungry justice." "Please," Liam said, knowing he was asking the impossible. "Trust me." The matriarch turned to her pack. The vocalizations that followed were unlike anything in Liam's database complex, layered, almost like a debate. He caught fragments: human, trust, risk, cubs, future. Finally, she faced him again. "We help no kill but capture, yes question." Liam nearly laughed with relief. "Yes, capture. Thank you." What happened next would be recorded in frontier history as the Convergence Incident. The Apex Pack moved with coordinated precision that spoke of evolution far beyond natural selection. They flowed down the canyon walls like a silver tide, but instead of attacking with fang and claw, they used their enhanced intelligence. Young adults worked in pairs, using their massive bodies to create moving cover that bullet couldn't penetrate. Others circled behind Decker's positions, cutting off escape routes. The humans fired wildly, but the predators moved with uncanny anticipation, always where the bullets weren't. One by one, Decker's men found themselves surrounded, weapons knocked away by precise swipes of massive paws. The apex predators pinned them without causing serious injury, though the terror in the poacher's eyes suggested they might have preferred a quick death. Decker himself lasted longest, a professional to the end. He fell back to a defensive position, using the last of his ammunition to keep the predators at bay. But even he couldn't fight the inevitable. The matriarch herself took him down, her massive form bowling him over. She stood over him, one paw pressed against his chest, waiting. "Clear," Liam called. "All hostiles neutralized." The strike team advanced cautiously, weapons lowered but ready. The sight that greeted them, a dozen armed poachers held down by apex predators, would have been comical, if not for the underlying tension. "Nobody move," Mara commanded as she surveyed the scene. "Liam, tell them we'll take custody of the prisoners." Liam approached the matriarch, who still held Decker pinned. "We take bad humans now. Punish them our way. Your way weak, they return, hunt again." "No," Liam said firmly. "They go to prison, locked away, never hunt again." The matriarch considered this. Then, with deliberate slowness, she stepped back. Around the canyon, other apex predators released their captives, who scrambled to the waiting frontier guards. As Decker was hauled past, he stared at Liam with naked hatred. "You've doomed us all. When they turn on you, and they will remember who tried to protect humanity. The only thing you protected was your bank account. Liam replied. With the prisoners secured, an awkward standoff developed. Humans and apex predators faced each other across the canyon floor, neither sure how to proceed. The potential for misunderstanding was enormous. Liam stepped into the space between them. To his team, he said, "Lower your weapons. Show them we mean no harm." Marcus protested. "Liam, that's an order from your commanding officer," Mara interrupted. "Do it." One by one, the frontier guards lowered their weapons. The Apex Pack responded with visible relaxation, aggressive postures softening. The matriarch approached Liam one final time. She lowered her massive head until they were eye level. When she spoke, her vocalization was clearer than ever. Debt paid, but more important future together possible question. "Yes," Liam said without hesitation. "Together is possible." She studied him for a long moment, then did something unprecedented. She extended one paw, claws retracted, and gently touched his chest right over his heart. The gesture was unmistakably meaningful, though its exact significance would be debated by xenobiologists for years. Then she turned and led her pack away, disappearing into the wilderness with the same ghostly efficiency they'd arrived with. Within minutes, only humans remained in the canyon. "What just happened?" Marcus asked, his voice shaky. "First contact," Dr. Kincaid said, having monitored everything through the comm system. True, meaningful first contact between species. The journey back to the outpost was subdued. Everyone processed the morning's events differently. Some were exhilarated by the possibilities, others terrified by the implications. The prisoners said nothing, but their expressions spoke volumes about their fear. In the briefing that followed, opinions were sharply divided. "They're too dangerous," argued Janet Hollowell, the outpost's administrative director. "Today, they helped us. But what about tomorrow? What happens when our interests don't align?" "You're missing the point," Dr. Kincaid countered. "They showed restraint, intelligence, and judgment. They could have slaughtered everyone in that canyon but chose not to. That's not the behavior of mindless predators." "It's the behavior of calculating predators," Janet shot back. "They helped us because it served their purposes. Remove a threat to their cubs while establishing themselves as equals. It's manipulation." "Or survival," Liam interjected. "They're adapting to our presence just as we're adapting to theirs. The question is whether we meet them with fear or understanding." Mara let the debate run for an hour before calling for silence. "The reality is that the apex predators have demonstrated sapience. That changes our legal and ethical obligations. I'm recommending immediate reclassification and the establishment of formal contact protocols." "The mining consortium won't like that," Janet warned. "Sapient species protection means no expansion into their territory." "Then they should have thought of that before hiring poachers," Mara replied coldly. "This is no longer about territory or resources. It's about coexistence with another intelligent species." Over the following weeks, changes came rapidly. The frontier zone was redesignated as a contact area, with strict protocols governing human activity. The mining operation was suspended pending investigation, much to the workers' displeasure. Liam found himself at the center of it all. As the only human to successfully communicate with the apex predators, he became the de facto liaison. Daily patrols took on new meaning as he searched for opportunities to expand their vocabulary and understanding. He wasn't always alone. Sometimes, at the edge of sensor range, he caught glimpses of silver-gray forms pacing him. Once, he found fresh kill left at one of his regular stops, a gesture of sharing that touched him deeply. The breakthrough came 3 weeks after the canyon incident. Liam was investigating another set of illegal snares when the proximity alerts chimed. But instead of the usual caution warnings, his suit displayed something new. Recognized individual approaching. Threat assessment minimal. The matriarch emerged from the forest, but she wasn't alone. The 2 cubs from his first encounter flanked her, now healed and energetic. They showed no fear, approaching close enough that Liam could see the intelligence in their young eyes. "You teach question," the matriarch vocalized. Liam's heart raced. "Teach what?" "Language, understanding, future cubs learn both ways." She was asking him to teach the cubs, to help prepare the next generation for a world where humans and apex predators coexisted. The trust required for such a request was staggering. "Yes," Liam said, his voice thick with emotion. "I teach." What followed was the strangest classroom session in human history. Using a combination of vocalizations, gestures, and his suit's translation matrix, Liam began teaching basic concepts. The cubs were eager students, their enhanced cognition allowing them to grasp ideas with frightening speed. Numbers came first. 1 claw extended, 2 claws, 3. The cubs mimicked perfectly, their smaller paws copying his gestures. Then simple objects: rock, tree, snow. Each word was repeated, translated, and absorbed. The matriarch watched silently, but Liam sensed her intense focus. She was learning too, perhaps faster than her offspring. When he pointed to himself and said, "Liam," she attempted the sound. It came out distorted but recognizable. "Liam," she managed. He pointed to her. "Name." The sound she made was complex, full of overtones his human throat could never reproduce. The translator offered, "Shadow, Moon, Hunter, Mother," a description rather than a name, but it would do. "Shadow," Liam said, selecting the first element. She tilted her head, considering. Then, with what might have been amusement, she accepted the designation. These sessions became regular events. Sometimes, Shadow brought other adults, expanding the class. The cubs grew comfortable enough to play around Liam, their games revealing a social structure as complex as any human culture. But not everyone was pleased with the progress. The mining workers, deprived of their expected profits, grew restless. Fights broke out in the camp. Equipment continued to malfunction, now clearly sabotage, though no culprit was found. The situation exploded one night when Liam was returning from a teaching session. His route took him past the mining camp, where angry voices carried on the wind. Sitting on a fortune while he plays teacher to animals, those things should be exterminated, not educated. Liam recognized the speaker, Brett Carver, a shift supervisor who'd been vocal about his displeasure. A crowd had gathered, worked into a frenzy by his words. "They're manipulating him," Brett continued, "making us weak. When they attack, and they will, we'll be defenseless because of bleeding hearts like Monroe." "That's enough," Liam said, stepping into view. The crowd turned, hostility radiating from them like heat. Brett sneered. "Look who's here! The animal lover himself. How many credits did you cost us today, Monroe?" "I cost you nothing. Your employers cost you by breaking the law." "Laws," Brett spat. "Written by people who've never faced these monsters. You want to protect them. Fine, but not at our expense." He pulled something from his jacket, a military-grade plasma rifle. Illegal for civilians. The crowd backed away as he aimed it at Liam. "Here's what's going to happen," Brett said. "You're going to call your friends at the outpost. Tell them the apex predators attacked the camp. Tragic losses. But we fought them off. Need permission to pursue and eliminate the threat." "You're insane," Liam said, calculating distances and angles. His shock baton was useless against the rifle's range. "Am I? We eliminate the pack, claim self-defense, and get back to mining. Everyone wins except the animals. And me, apparently. Your plan requires me dead." Brett shrugged. "Casualties of the attack. Very sad. You'll be remembered as a hero who died warning us." Motion, in Liam's peripheral vision, made his heart sink. Shadow and the cubs had followed him, curious about human settlements. They stood at the camp's edge, visible in the floodlights. Brett smiled. Perfect timing. He swung the rifle toward them. Liam moved without thinking. His suit's enhanced muscles launched him forward, closing the distance in seconds. He hit Brett low, spoiling his aim. The plasma bolt seared overhead, missing Shadow by meters. They rolled in the dirt, fighting for the weapon. Brett was larger, but Liam had training and desperation. He managed to knock the rifle away, but Brett pulled a knife, its monomolecular edge gleaming. The crowd scattered as Shadow bounded into the camp. Her roar shook the prefab buildings, a sound of pure rage. Brett froze, knife half raised, as 300 kilos of apex predator loomed over him. "No," Liam shouted. "Shadow, no kill." She paused, massive head swinging toward him. In her eyes, Liam saw the war between instinct and intelligence. Brett had threatened her cubs. Every fiber of her being demanded his death. "Please," Liam said, struggling to his feet. "No kill. My pack deals with him." For 10 heartbeats, Shadow stood motionless. Then, with visible effort, she stepped back. Brett collapsed, his pants soaked with terror. Security forces arrived moments later, drawn by the commotion. They found Brett sobbing on the ground, Shadow standing guard, and Liam trying to calm 2 frightened cubs who had hidden behind a storage container. "Everyone stay calm," Marcus commanded, weapon drawn but not aimed. "Liam, what happened?" Liam explained quickly, aware that dozens of miners were watching. This moment would define human-apex relations going forward. When he finished, Marcus holstered his weapon and approached Shadow. She tensed but didn't retreat. With careful movements, he bowed a gesture of respect that surprised everyone, including Liam. "Thank you," Marcus said simply, "for not killing him, for trusting us." Shadow studied him, then performed her own gesture, lowering her head while maintaining eye contact. An acknowledgement between warriors. Brett was arrested, the illegal weapons confiscated. But the damage was done. Word spread quickly through the colony apex predators in the camp. Miners threatening violence. The whole situation balanced on a knife's edge. Emergency meetings ran through the night. Some called for evacuation. Others for military intervention. Liam argued passionately for patience, but fear was spreading like wildfire. The next morning brought unexpected allies. A delegation from the nearest city arrived: lawyers, scientists, even religious leaders. They'd been monitoring the situation and came to offer support. "What you've accomplished here is remarkable," said Patricia Nguyen, a prominent xena rights advocate. "First successful communication with a sapient species. The legal precedents alone." "We're more interested in practical solutions," Mara interrupted. "How do we move forward without bloodshed?" "Formal recognition," Patricia said immediately. "Acknowledge their territorial rights. Establish communication protocols. Create frameworks for interaction. Make it official before fear and greed destroy everything." Dr. Kincaid supported this enthusiastically. "I've been analyzing Liam's interaction data. The apex predators have complex social structures, generational knowledge transfer, even what appears to be oral history. They're not just sapient, they're civilized." "But they're still predators," Janet argued. "Civilized or not, they need large territories and live prey. How do we reconcile that with human expansion?" "By reimagining what expansion means," Patricia suggested. "Cooperation instead of conquest. Shared resources instead of exploitation." The debate continued, but Liam slipped away. He had a scheduled session with Shadow and the cubs, and he wouldn't disappoint them. He found them at the usual spot, a clearing where human technology and primeval forest met. The cubs raced over, their greeting enthusiastic enough to knock him down. As he played with them, teaching new words and concepts, Shadow watched with what he'd come to recognize as approval. "Change comes," she vocalized during a quiet moment. "Feel it in pack. In your pack too. Change brings fear." "Yes," Liam agreed, "but also hope." "Hope." She tested the word. A concept that didn't translate directly. Future wish. Cubs grow safe, packs no fight. "That's hope," Liam confirmed. She moved closer, her bulk blocking the sun. You bring hope, strange human. No fear smell. No hate taste. Why? It was the deepest question she'd asked. Liam considered his answer carefully. When I was young, I lived near wilderness, watched animals, learned their ways, saw beauty in predators, not just danger. When I came here, I hoped. He paused, searching for words she'd understand. Hoped to find that beauty again. Found more. Found you. Shadow was quiet for a long moment. Then she did something unprecedented. She lay down beside him. Her massive form relaxed and trusting. The cubs took this as permission to climb over both of them, their play bridging two species. Tell story, Shadow requested. Your pack, how began, help understand. So Liam told stories. About humanity's rise, their mistakes and triumphs. About other times when different peoples met, sometimes in conflict, sometimes in peace. Shadow listened intently, occasionally asking for clarification. When he described humanity's journey to the stars, she showed particular interest. Sky place. We see lights move. Always wonder. You say humans there. Yes, many worlds now. Looking for new homes, new lives. We only have this world, Shadow said simply. Must share or perish. The wisdom in those words stayed with Liam through the difficult days that followed. The colonial government officially recognized the apex predators as sapient, granting them protective status. The mining operation was permanently shut down, its workers reassigned or compensated. Not everyone accepted the new reality. There were protests, even attempts at vigilante action. But each time violence threatened, both species worked to prevent it. Apex predators guided lost humans home. Humans removed snares and warned of dangers. The cubs grew rapidly, their vocabulary expanding daily. They served as ambassadors, their playful nature disarming even skeptical humans. Videos of them learning to count, identifying objects, even attempting simple jokes, went viral across human space. 6 months after first contact, Liam stood with Shadow on a ridge overlooking the valley. Below, humans and apex predators worked together on a project, a shared observation post, where both species could monitor their territory and coordinate activities. Never thought see this, Shadow admitted. Packs together. No hunt, no fear. It's just the beginning, Liam said. There will be challenges, misunderstandings. Some of both our kinds will never accept this. Truth, Shadow agreed. But cubs yours and mine grow up knowing different. That brings hope. A call from below drew their attention. The cubs were demonstrating something to a group of human children, a game that involved both species' abilities. The laughter that rose was indistinguishable between human and apex predator. Thank you, Shadow said suddenly, for seeing us, not as monsters, as people. Thank you, Liam replied, for taking a chance on trust. They stood together in comfortable silence, predator and prey no longer, but two people working toward a shared future. The sun set over the valley, painting the sky in shades of hope. The story of humanity's expansion into the stars had always been one of conquest and colonization. But here, on this frontier world, a new chapter was being written, one of cooperation, understanding, and the recognition that intelligence takes many forms. It wouldn't be easy. There would be setbacks, tragedies, and those on both sides who preferred the old ways of fear and violence. But as Liam watched the cubs play with human children, their laughter echoing across the valley, he knew they had taken the first crucial steps. The boundary between human and apex predator territory still existed. But now, it was a place of meeting rather than separation. A place where two species could stand together and look toward a future neither could achieve alone. And at the center of it all, a man who refused to see monsters and a mother who chose trust over instinct continued to build bridges. One word, one gesture, one moment of understanding at a time. The universe, it seemed, was vast enough for all kinds of people. The first winter after contact brought challenges no one had anticipated. The shared observation post, dubbed Convergence Point by the humans and Meat Place by the apex predators, became a crucial shelter when blizzards unlike any in recorded history swept across the region. Liam arrived at the post to find it crowded with both species. Human families huddled near the heating units, while apex predators clustered together, their thick fur providing natural insulation. The sight should have been terrifying prey and predator trapped together by nature's fury. Instead, it was remarkably peaceful. "Power cells are draining faster than expected," reported David Park, the post's chief engineer. "The storm's worse than our models predicted. We might lose heat within 12 hours. Shadow, who had learned enough human language to follow conversations, rose from where she'd been resting with her cubs. "Cold, not kill us, but humans." She didn't need to finish. Everyone understood the implications. "We could evacuate to the main outpost," someone suggested. Marcus, monitoring the weather systems, shook his head. "Nothing's flying in this. Ground vehicles would get buried within minutes. We're stuck." A younger apex predator, one Liam had named Swift for his incredible speed, vocalized something complex. Shadow translated. "He says pack knows ways. Deep caves, warm from Earth, old dens from before time. Geothermal caves." Dr. Kincaid's eyes lit up. "Of course, the geological surveys showed extensive cave systems, but we never explored them thoroughly." "Because they're in apex territory," Janet added, her tone cautious despite months of peaceful coexistence. Shadow's expression, and yes, Liam had learned to read apex predator expressions, showed mild amusement. "Territory means nothing if all freeze. We share warmth, share life." The decision was made quickly. Apex predators would guide humans to the caves, sharing ancient knowledge of underground passages that had sheltered their kind for millennia. It required absolute trust on both sides. The journey through the blizzard became a testament to cooperation. Apex predators formed living windbreaks, their massive bodies shielding human families from the worst gusts. Humans carried cubs too young to fight through the deep snow, the small predators tucked inside thermal blankets. Liam walked beside Shadow, marveling at how natural this felt. A year ago, he'd been just another frontier guard, watching for threats. Now he was helping coordinate the evacuation of two species together. "Your people fear still," Shadow observed, her voice barely audible over the wind. "Some," Liam admitted. "Change is hard. Fear is ancient. Fear keeps alive sometimes, but sometimes—" She paused, choosing her words carefully in the human language. "Sometimes fear kills more than trust risks." They reached the cave system as the last light faded. The entrance was massive, worn smooth by countless generations of apex predators. Inside, the temperature difference was immediate warm air, rising from deep within the earth. "Incredible," Dr. Kincaid breathed, her scientific instruments already out. "The thermal gradient suggests extensive geothermal activity. This could heat the entire colony if properly harnessed. But first, they had to survive the night." Apex predators led the mixed group deeper, through passages that showed clear signs of long use. Claw marks served as guides, and worn spots indicated resting places. Finally, they reached a vast chamber where underground hot springs created a natural sauna. "Home den," Shadow explained. "Where cubs born, where pack gathers in deep cold." The humans set up emergency shelters, while apex predators showed them which water was safe to drink and where the warmest spots were. Children, both human and apex, quickly discovered that the smooth rocks around the springs made excellent slides. As night deepened and the storm raged above, an extraordinary scene unfolded. Humans and apex predators shared food the humans' emergency rations and preserved meat the predators had cached. Stories were exchanged, with Liam and a few others translating. The apex predators' oral histories, told in their complex language of sound and gesture, revealed a deep understanding of the land's cycles. Great cold comes every few generations. An elderly apex predator explained through shadow. Last time, many packs died, but some remembered the warm places, the safe paths, knowledge passed down, parent to cub, until needed again. Climate cycles, Dr. Kincaid muttered, taking notes. They've been tracking weather patterns through oral tradition for centuries. The sharing went both ways. Human engineers explained how their technology worked, demonstrating tablets and sensors to fascinated apex predators. Young Swift proved particularly adept at understanding technical concepts, his quick mind grasping ideas that should have been alien to his species. He asks if humans can build speaking machines for apex voices. Shadow translated, "Our sounds too complex for your throats, but machines could make bridge." David Park, despite the circumstances, looked excited. "It's possible. We'd need to map their full vocal range, but with the right synthesizers." And so, in a cave deep underground, warmed by the Earth's heat and surrounded by a blizzard that could kill, two species planned a future together. The storm raged for 3 days, during which time bonds formed that would have been impossible in normal circumstances. Human children learned to read apex predator body language, understanding when a tail twitch meant amusement or when flattened ears indicated discomfort. Apex cubs discovered that humans, despite their lack of claws and fangs, could be fun playmates who knew games their own kind had never imagined. But it was the adults who changed the most. Forced proximity broke down barriers that months of careful diplomacy hadn't touched. When little Sarah Hendricks developed a fever, it was an apex predator matriarch who showed her mother which cave moss had medicinal properties. When an elderly apex predator struggled with arthritis in the damp air, human medics provided pain relief that their species had never known. On the second night, Liam found himself in deep conversation with Swift and several other young adult apex predators. Through a combination of languages, they discussed everything from hunting strategies to philosophical concepts. "You humans puzzle us," Swift admitted. "Weak bodies, no claws, can't smell prey from distance. Should have died out. Instead, you conquer stars. How?" Liam thought carefully. "We cooperate, share knowledge, build on what came before. Each generation starts where the last one ended, not from beginning. Like our memory keepers," another apex predator said. "But you keep memories and things outside body, books, machines." "External memory storage," Dr. Kincaid interjected, having overheard. "It's what allows complex civilization. But you have something we don't, genetic memory. Instincts, so refined they're almost like inherited knowledge." Swift's eyes gleamed. "What if combine your external memory, our internal memory? What could we build together?" It was a question that would echo long after the storm passed. On the third morning, the winds finally died. The mixed group emerged from the caves to find a transformed landscape. Snow drifts reached impossible heights, and the familiar landmarks were buried. But everyone had survived. The trek back to human settlements became another exercise in cooperation. Apex predators' superior senses found safe paths through the altered terrain. Humans' technology called for rescue vehicles once they reached communication range. By the time they arrived at the outpost, news of their survival had spread throughout the colony. "Remarkable," Patricia Nguyen said, having arrived to document the aftermath. 3 days of forced cohabitation without a single violent incident. This proves beyond doubt that our species can coexist. But Liam noticed the subtle tensions that remained. Some humans still flinched when apex predators moved too quickly. Some apex predators still showed hunting behaviors around human children before catching themselves. Peace was possible, but it required constant vigilance and choice. The caves became a turning point. The colonial government approved funding to study the geothermal systems, with profits to be shared between human settlements and apex predator packs. It was the first formal economic partnership between the species. Shadow approached Liam as he supervised the installation of monitoring equipment at the cave entrance. "Changes come faster now," she observed. "Some pack members worry. Say humans take everything, leave nothing." "What do you think?" Liam asked. She was quiet for a moment, watching her cubs play with human children in the snow. "Think fear and hope always fight. In humans, in Apex. But cubs show truth together is stronger than apart." Her words proved prophetic in the months that followed. The economic partnership expanded beyond the caves. Apex predators' intimate knowledge of the ecosystem helped humans identify sustainable resources. Human technology helped apex predators deal with diseases and injuries that would have been fatal to their ancestors. But success bred its own challenges. Ships arrived from other colonies, carrying entrepreneurs who saw opportunity in the unique situation. Some came with genuine interest in cooperation. Others came with exploitation in mind. Liam found himself busier than ever, not just as a translator, but as a mediator. Disputes arose over territory, resources, and cultural misunderstandings. Each required careful handling to prevent escalation. One particularly tense situation developed when a mining consortium tried to claim rights to a valley system the apex predators considered sacred. The company argued that since apex predators didn't use the land in human terms, no buildings, no cultivation, it was available for development. "This is exactly what we were trying to prevent," Mara said, during an emergency meeting. "They're using legal technicalities to undermine the spirit of our agreements." "The apex predators won't accept it," Liam warned. "That valley contains their ancestral burial grounds. It's like someone trying to mine beneath a human cemetery." The situation escalated when young apex predators began shadowing the mining survey teams. No violence occurred, but the implied threat was clear. The survey teams, unnerved by constant predator presence, demanded military protection. "We're balanced on a knife's edge," Marcus reported. "One nervous trigger finger, one apex predator losing patience, and we could have a bloodbath." Liam requested a meeting with Shadow and the pack leaders. He found them at the Sacred Valley, their agitation visible in every line of their bodies. "They desecrate," Shadow said without preamble. "Places where ancestors return to Earth, where we sing the old songs. They see only rocks and profit." "I know," Liam said. "We're trying to stop them legally, but human law is complex and slow." A younger pack leader, Scar, bared his teeth. "Apex law simple. Protect sacred places or die trying." "That's what they want," Liam realized suddenly. "The consortium. They want you to attack. It would justify military action. Let them claim you're too dangerous to negotiate with." Shadow's eyes narrowed. "Trap. Like snares for cubs, but bigger." "Exactly. So we need to be smarter. Fight with human weapons law, public opinion, economics." The apex predators exchanged complex vocalizations. Finally, Shadow spoke. "Tell us how." What followed was a crash course in human legal and social systems. Liam, aided by Patrician Guyon and other advocates, helped the apex predators understand their rights under the new sapient species laws. More importantly, they learned how to use human media to their advantage. The turning point came when Swift, who had developed remarkable fluency in human language, agreed to a live interview, wearing a specially designed translator unit that David Park's team had developed. He spoke directly to human audiences across the colonies. "We are not monsters," Swift said, his artificial voice carrying the dignity of his species. "We are people, different from you. Yes, but we love our children, honor our ancestors, cherish our land. The valley you would destroy holds the bones of 1,000 generations. Would you dig up your own grandmothers for profit? The interview went viral. Public opinion shifted overnight. The mining consortium, facing massive backlash and boycott threats, withdrew their claim. But the victory came with a warning. Not everyone was pleased with apex predators, learning to navigate human society so effectively. "They're getting too smart," Liam overheard a dock worker saying. "Learning our ways, our weaknesses. What happens when they decide they don't need us anymore?" Fear, as Shadow had said, always fought with hope. The second winter after contact arrived with less drama, but more preparation. The cave systems had been mapped and equipped with emergency supplies. Early warning systems tracked weather patterns. When the storms came, both species sheltered together by choice rather than necessity. It was during one of these shelter periods that tragedy struck. A human child, exploring deeper caves against adult warnings, became lost in the unmapped sections. Search parties found no trace, and as hours passed, hope dwindled. Then Shadow's cubs, now adolescents, volunteered to search. Their senses and familiarity with caves made them ideal trackers. Despite some humans' objections, they were allowed to try. They found the child after 6 hours, hypothermic but alive. In a narrow passage, human rescuers could never have navigated. The image of apex predator adolescents, carefully carrying out a human child, became another viral moment. But for Liam, it represented something deeper. "They risked themselves for one of ours," the child's mother said through tears, clutching her daughter. "I was terrified of them, but they saved her." Shadow, watching the reunion, spoke quietly to Liam. "Cubs say was easy choice. Pack means all cubs protected, not just apex cubs. Human girl became pack when sheltered together. Is this not how you think?" "It's how some of us think," Liam admitted. "Others still see lines between us." "Lines fade," Shadow said with certainty. "Each winter, each crisis, each saved cub. Lines fade until only people remain." Her optimism was tested when ships arrived, carrying a new type of visitor xenobiologists who wanted to study apex predators, not as equals, but as specimens. They came with credentials and government backing. Speaking of advancing scientific knowledge. "Absolutely not," Dr. Kincaid said flatly, when they requested tissue samples and genetic material. "The apex predators are sapient beings, not lab animals." "But think of what we could learn," argued the lead scientist, Dr. Reginald Harrison. "Their enhanced cognition, their physical adaptations, it could revolutionize human augmentation." The apex predator's response was unanimous and firm. No samples, no studies without full consent and participation. When Harrison tried to go around them, setting up equipment near apex territory, he found his instruments mysteriously damaged and his team constantly watched by silent predators. "You're hindering scientific progress," Harrison complained to Mara. "I'm preventing an interspecies incident," she replied. "The apex predators have made their position clear. Respect it or leave." But Harrison represented a faction that saw apex predators as resources to be exploited, rather than people to be respected. They couched their arguments in scientific terms, but their goals were transparent: unlock the secrets of apex predator evolution for human benefit. Consent be damned. The conflict came to a head when Harrison's team was caught trying to tranquilize a young apex predator. Swift had been examining some of their abandoned equipment when hidden darts fired. His enhanced reflexes saved him. He dodged the darts and raised an alarm that brought both species running. "You could have killed him," Liam said, fury barely controlled as he faced Harrison. The dosage for normal predators would be fatal to their enhanced physiology. "We calculated. You experimented. On a person. Without consent." Mira's voice was ice. "You're under arrest. Your team has 6 hours to leave the planet." As Harrison was led away, he shouted, "You're making a mistake. They're not human. They're weapons waiting to be unleashed. Swift, recovering from the shock, looked at Liam. He fears what he doesn't control. Many humans think like him. Some, Liam admitted, but fewer each day. Every story of cooperation, every life saved, every friendship formed makes those voices quieter. Hope fights fear, Swift said, echoing Shadow's words. We must give Hope more weapons. The incident led to stronger protections and clearer laws. Apex predators gained legal standing to sue for harassment, representation in colonial governance, and recognition of their territorial sovereignty. It wasn't perfect, no first contact ever was, but it was progress. By the third spring, the changes were remarkable. The shared observation post had grown into a small town where both species lived and worked together. Translation technology had advanced to the point where real-time conversation was possible. Mixed teams explored the planet, combining human technology with apex predator instincts to catalog its wonders. Liam stood on the same ridge where he'd first encountered Shadow and her cubs. But now he wasn't alone. A mixed group of children, human and apex, were learning tracking skills from Shadow, while Dr. Kincaid taught them about ecosystems. Never thought I'd see this, Marcus said, joining him. When I first arrived here, I had nightmares about apex predators. Now my daughter's best friend has fangs and a tail. It wasn't inevitable, Liam reflected. We could have destroyed each other. Still could, if we're not careful. But we chose differently, a new voice added. Swift approached, wearing the latest translation collar. Each choice to trust instead of fear, to understand instead of attack. Small choices, but they add up. Shadow appeared from the forest, moving with the deadly grace that still made some humans nervous. But the children ran to her without fear, both species trusting the matriarch completely. Time for lesson, she announced. Today, teach about seasons, how to read the signs, prepare for change. As the children gathered around her, Liam felt a hand on his shoulder. Mara had arrived, looking older but satisfied. You did this, she said quietly. That first day, when you chose to help those cubs, you changed everything. I made one choice, Liam corrected. Everyone here made thousands of others. Shadow chose to trust. Swift chose to learn. You chose to support us. Every person who chose cooperation over conflict built this. They watched as Shadow demonstrated how to read wind patterns. Her massive paw gentle as she guided a human child's hand. One of her cubs, now a young adult, translated her words while Swift added scientific context. The universities want to establish a campus here, Mara continued. Xenobiology, linguistics, cooperative governance. They're calling it the Monroe Shadow Institute. Liam laughed. Shadow will hate that. She doesn't understand why humans name things after people. Then we'll let her pick the name, Mara said simply. Another compromise. Another step forward. As the sun set over the valley, painting the sky in familiar colors, Liam reflected on the journey. 3 years ago, he'd been a boundary keeper, maintaining the line between human and apex predator territory. Now, that boundary had become a bridge. There would be more challenges. Other colonies wrestling with their own first contacts would look to this world for guidance. Extremists on both sides would continue to advocate for separation or domination. The work of building a truly integrated society had barely begun. But watching human and apex children plan together for the next day's adventures, seeing the easy partnership between former enemies, Liam felt something his translation matrix might have called hope certainty, the belief that the future, while uncertain, was bright with possibility. Come, Shadow called to him. You miss lesson. Must learn to smell tomorrow's weather. Even weak human noses can learn, with practice. Liam joined the circle. Just another student learning from the patient matriarch. Around him, 2 species continued the delicate, essential work of becoming one people. The boundary was gone. In its place stood something far more valuable, a future where difference was strength, where trust could overcome millennia of evolution, where the choice to see people instead of monsters could reshape worlds. The stars watched overhead, silent witnesses to this small miracle on a frontier planet. And in the gathering darkness, predator and prey sat together, planning for tomorrow, 3 years later. The Alliance capital ship Convergence hung in space like a testament to impossible dreams made real. Half human engineering, half Vex artistry. It represented everything the Alliance had achieved and everything it still struggled to become. Gunnar stood on the bridge, watching the tactical display show friendly markers where once only potential enemies had existed. The integration hadn't been smooth. There had been setbacks, conflicts, moments when the whole structure threatened to collapse, but they had persevered. "Special Advisor," Captain Martinez called out. "We're receiving a priority transmission from the Obsidian Court." "Wrote it to my ready room," Gunnar replied, already knowing who it would be. The ready room was his sanctuary, decorated with artifacts from both cultures. A Vex memory crystal sat next to a photograph of Earth. Traditional human books shared shelf space with holographic Vex poetry. It was a space that reflected what he had become, neither fully human nor trying to be Vex, but something new. Xyrith's image materialized before him, and despite 3 years of regular communication, her presence still commanded his complete attention. Time had not diminished her power, but it had added something else, a depth that came from facing the impossible and succeeding. "Gunnar," she said, and his name and her voice still sent an unexpected warmth through him. "We have a situation." "When don't we?" He settled into his chair, noting the tension in her usually controlled features. "What is it this time? Another protest from the purest factions? Trade dispute over the new jump gates?" "The Hatterons have made their move. A full battle fleet has been detected massing near the terminus systems. Our intelligence suggests they're planning a massive offensive within the week." Gunnar felt the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders. They had known this was coming, had spent 3 years preparing for it, but knowing and facing were different things. "How massive are we talking?" "Everything they have. They've apparently decided that our alliance is too great a threat to their expansion plans. They mean to crush us before we can fully integrate our forces. Our readiness, better than it would have been 3 years ago. The joint training exercises have paid off. Human creativity combined with Vex discipline has produced some interesting tactical innovations. But Gunnar, even with our combined forces, the numbers are not in our favor." He stood, pacing to the viewport. Outside, he could see a mixed squadron running maneuvers, human frigates dancing between Vex destroyers in patterns that would have been impossible before the Alliance. "We need more than military might," he said finally. "The Hatterons expect us to meet them strength for strength. What if we don't?" "Explain." "You taught me something during our first meeting. That strength isn't just about power. It's about adaptation. The Hatterons are rigid, hierarchical. They can't conceive of equals working together because their entire society is built on dominance. We use that against them." "You have a plan." It wasn't a question. She had learned to recognize his particular brand of strategic thinking. "The beginning of one. But I'll need to come to Vexara Prime. This isn't something we can coordinate through channels." "Agreed. And Gunnar, bring Kalen. If this goes badly, I want my best warrior protecting my most valuable advisor." The connection ended, but not before he caught something in her expression, a flash of what might have been concern, or something deeper. The journey to Vexara Prime took 2 days through the new joint-operated jump gates. Kalen spent most of it reviewing tactical data, her dedication to duty unchanged, despite her elevation to his permanent security chief. "You're worried," she observed as they approached the Vex homeworld. "The Hatterons have been preparing for this longer than we have. They're unified in purpose while we're still learning to work together." But we have something they don't. What's that? Perspective. They see only enemies to conquer. We've learned to see potential allies. She checked her weapons, a gesture that had become habitual. That's thanks to you. You know, you and the matriarch. We just opened the door. Everyone else had to choose to walk through it. Modest. Unlike the gunner who challenged the matriarch in her own throne room. He smiled at the memory. That was desperation, not courage. Sometimes they're the same thing. Vexara Prime had changed in 3 years. The capital city now hosted a human embassy, its Earth-inspired architecture standing in harmonious contrast to the Vex spires. Markets sold goods from both species. In the streets, young Vex and humans worked together. The first generation to grow up seeing cooperation as normal rather than exceptional. But beneath the surface, Gunnar could feel the tension. War was coming, and everyone knew it. The Obsidian Court remained as imposing as ever. But now, Gunnar walked its halls with familiarity rather than fear. Guards nodded respectfully as he passed, and he heard his name whispered in conversations, the human who danced, the bridge between worlds. He found Xyrith in the war room, surrounded by her generals and advisors. The holographic display showed Hadron fleet movements in stark detail. Their forces outnumbered the Alliance fleet by nearly 2-1. "Leave us," Xyrith commanded as he entered. The generals filed out, though not without curious glances at the human who warranted private war councils with their matriarch. When they were alone, she turned to him. "Your plan. We can't win a straight fight, Joel, but we don't need to. We need to make the cost of victory too high for the Hadrons to pay." "Elaborate." Gunnar activated his own tactical display, overlaying it with the existing data. The Hadrons have one critical weakness: their command structure. Everything flows from their supreme hierarchy. Disrupt that, and their coordination collapses. You're suggesting a decapitation strike. We've considered that. Their command ship is too well defended. Not a strike, an infiltration. He highlighted several points on the display. We use our greatest advantage, the fact that they can't conceive of human and Vex truly working together. A mixed special operations team, using both species' strengths. Humans for adaptability and electronic warfare. Vex for combat prowess and tactical discipline. To do what, even if such a team could reach their command ship? What then? We don't destroy it. We subvert it. Turn their own systems against them. Broadcast their internal communications to their entire fleet. Show them what their leaders really think of the soldiers they're sending to die. Xyrith studied the display, her mind working through the possibilities. It's audacious, also likely suicidal for anyone involved. I'll lead the team personally. No. The word came out sharper than he expected. You're too valuable to risk on such a mission. I'm the only one who can... This requires someone who truly understands both species, who can coordinate their efforts seamlessly. Besides, he added with a slight smile, I've been training with Kalen for 3 years. I'm not the soft diplomat you met anymore. No, she agreed, moving closer. You're not... There was something in her voice, in the way she looked at him, that made the air between them charged with possibility. 3 years of working together, of building something unprecedented, had created a connection neither had expected. Xyrith, he began, but she raised a hand. Not now, not with war at our doorstep, but after. She let the sentence hang, a promise of conversations to come. If you're determined to do this, you'll need the best team possible. I know just the candidates. The next days were a blur of preparation. The team Xyrith assembled was a testament to how far the Alliance had come. 6 humans and 6 Vex, each chosen for specific skills that complemented their partners. There was Davies, a human electronic warfare specialist paired with Korvax, a Vex cyber warrior. Patel, a demolitions expert whose improvisational style meshed perfectly with Zoran's precise calculations. And of course, Kalen, who would serve as the team's military commander while Gunnar handled overall strategy. "You realize this is insane," Eva said during their final briefing. She had arrived from the human capital to oversee intelligence support. "The odds of success are better than the odds of winning a conventional battle," Gunnar interrupted. "Sometimes insane is what's needed. The Vex are rubbing off on you. All this talk of honor and dramatic gestures. And humans are rubbing off on them. Xyrith actually made a joke yesterday. Alert the media, the galaxy truly is ending." Despite the banter, everyone understood the stakes. If they failed, the Alliance fleet would face the Hatterons at a severe disadvantage. The war would be brutal and likely end in defeat. The night before departure, Gunnar walked the gardens of the Obsidian Court. They were a recent addition, Xyrith's acknowledgement that beauty had value beyond mere function. He found her there, standing among bioluminescent flowers that painted her in shifting patterns of light. "Second thoughts?" she asked without turning. "Always, but not enough to stop me. I've been thinking about your words from the summit, about becoming more than what we were separately." She turned to face him. "I never expected to find wisdom in a species I considered prey. And I never expected to find honor in a species I feared as predators. Perhaps that's the real victory, regardless of what happens with the Hatterons. We've proven that change is possible." They stood in comfortable silence, two leaders who had found something unexpected in each other. Finally, Xyrith spoke again. "There's something you should know. If you don't return from this mission, I've made provisions. The Alliance will continue. Our species will work together, but it won't be the same." "Why?" "Because you've become essential to more than just politics." She stepped closer, her hand touching his face with surprising gentleness. "Come back, Gunnar Reeves. That's not a request from the matriarch. That's something else." He covered her hand with his own, feeling the warmth beneath the armor-tough skin. "I'll come back. We have too much unfinished business." Promises in the face of death? How very human. Hope in the face of darkness. I've learned it's not just a human trait. The mission launched at what humans called dawn, and Vex called first light. Their ship was a marvel of hybrid technology. Human stealth systems combined with Vex phase-shifting capabilities. It slipped through space like a ghost, undetectable to standard sensors. The journey to the Hatteron fleet took 3 days of careful navigation. The team used the time for final preparations, running through scenarios until every movement was instinct. "Remember," Gunnar addressed them in the final briefing, "we're not just soldiers on a mission. We're proof that our alliance works. Every action, every decision, shows the galaxy what human-Vex cooperation can achieve." "No pressure," Davies muttered, earning a mandible click of amusement from his Vex partner. The Hatteron command ship was a monstrosity of angular metal and organic components, larger than anything the Alliance had built. It sat at the center of the fleet, like a spider in its web, coordinating the movements of hundreds of vessels. "Phase shift in 30 seconds, the pilot announced. "May fortune favor the bold." "Fortune favors the prepared," Kalen corrected. "Bold just helps." They materialized in the shadow of a waste exhaust port, their ship's signatures masked by the radiation. The infiltration point was a maintenance hatch that hadn't been used in cycles, according to their intelligence. The team moved like a single organism, each pair covering the others as they navigated the alien corridors. Gunnar marveled at how natural it felt, human and Vex operating in perfect synchronization. 3 years ago, this would have been impossible. They encountered their first Hatteran patrol after 20 minutes. The creatures were even more alien up close, crystalline beings that moved with sharp, angular precision. Kalen's team eliminated them silently, bodies dissolving into their component crystals. "Davies, Korvax, you're up," Gunnar whispered as they reached the first data node. The pair worked in perfect harmony, Davies' intuitive hacking complemented by Korvax's systematic approach, Within minutes, they had access to the ship's secondary systems. "I'm seeing communication logs," Davies reported. "You were right. Gunner, the hierarchy has been lying to their forces. Promises of glory and expansion. But the real plan is to use the outer fleet as cannon fodder, while the core worlds consolidate power. Can you prepare a broadcast package?" "Give us 10 minutes." They pushed deeper into the ship, following power conduits toward the main command center. The architecture became more organic as they progressed, walls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that hurt to look at directly. Then alarms began wailing. "So much for stealth," Patel said, already preparing explosive charges. "Command center is 3 levels up," Kalen reported. "We can fight through, but extraction becomes problematic." "We knew this might happen," Gunner said. "Proceed with primary objective. Worry about extraction later." They fought their way up through increasingly heavy resistance. The Hatterons were skilled warriors, but they struggled to adapt to the mixed tactics of human and Vex. Where they expected Vex frontal assault, humans flanked. Where they anticipated human misdirection, Vex discipline held the line. The command center doors were massive, secured with technology none of them recognized. Patel and Zeran studied it for precious seconds, while the others held the corridor. "I can blow it," Patel said, "but the explosion will likely damage the systems inside." "Alternative?" Gunner asked. "I might be able to phase shift through," Zeran offered. "But only alone, and I'd need someone to cover the technical aspects once inside." Gunner made the decision instantly. "Davies, upload your hacking suite to my implants. Zeran and I go in. The rest hold position." "That's not the plan," Kalen protested. "Plans adapt or they fail. You taught me that." The upload was painful, foreign code flooding Gunner's neural implants. But when it was done, he had access to Davies' years of experience, layered over his own knowledge. Zeran's phase shift felt like being torn apart and reassembled. They materialized inside the command center to find the Hatteron Supreme Hierarchy, 5 crystalline beings linked in a neural network, their consciousness distributed across the entire fleet. "Impossible," one spoke, its voice like grinding glass. "The prey species cannot cooperate. Their natures are incompatible." "You're right," Gunner said, already moving toward the main console. "We are incompatible, by your standards. But we found something better than compatibility: mutual respect." Zeran engaged the hierarchy's guards while Gunner worked. The hacking suite in his mind guided his hands, showing him pathways through alien code. But it was his understanding of motivation, of psychology, that let him find what he needed. The hierarchy's private communications, years of treating their own forces as expendable resources, plans to purge successful generals who might challenge their authority. The real reason for the war, not expansion, but distraction from internal dissent. "Broadcast ready," he announced. "Stop." The central hierarch detached from the network, moving with surprising speed. "You know not what you do. Order must be maintained. The strong must lead." "The strong must serve," Gunner countered. "That's what real leadership means." He activated the broadcast. Across the Hatteron fleet, every display showed the truth. Communications channels carried the hierarchy's contempt for their own forces. The reaction was immediate: confusion, anger, ships breaking formation as commanders demanded explanations. "You've doomed us all," the hierarch said. "Without unity, we fall to chaos." "No," Gunner said. "Without tyranny, you find opportunity. Your people can choose now. Continue a war based on lies, or find a different path." The command center shook as explosions rocked the ship. In the confusion of the fleet, someone had decided to take direct action against their leaders. "Time to go," Zeran said, grabbing Gunner as alarms screamed. They phase-shifted back to the corridor to find the team had been busy. A path of destruction led back toward their insertion point, littered with crystalline remains. "Mission accomplished," Kalen asked. "Mission accomplished. Now we run." The extraction was chaos. The Hadron fleet had turned on itself, some ships attacking the command vessel, while others tried to maintain order. In the confusion, the small Alliance ship slipped away, phase shifting to safety as the enemy fleet tore itself apart. They returned to find the Alliance fleet in defensive positions, ready for a battle that would never come. The Hadron advance had stalled, then reversed, as civil war consumed their forces. Within days, factional leaders were reaching out through intermediaries, seeking dialogue rather than destruction. "You did it," Xyrith said when they met again in the Obsidian Court. The formal debriefing was over, and they were alone in her private chambers. "You turned their strength against them." "We did it," Gunnar corrected. "Human and Vex together. Neither could have succeeded alone. Always sharing credit. It's simultaneously your most admirable and most frustrating trait." She moved to the window overlooking the city, where both species now walked freely. "The Hadron factions want to negotiate. Several have expressed interest in joining our alliance. And I told them they could speak with our special advisor. Both species trust your judgment in these matters." Gunnar joined her at the window. 3 years ago, you called me prey, weak, unworthy of respect. 3 years ago, I was a fool blinded by tradition." She turned to him. "You changed that, changed me, and now I find myself contemplating something I never thought possible." She took his hand, her larger fingers intertwining with his. "The war is over, at least for now. That conversation we postponed. Yes, I've spent 3 years watching you bridge impossible divides. You've made me believe that differences can be strength, that adaptation is evolution." She paused, vulnerability showing through her usual control. "I would like to explore what that means on a more personal level." Gunnar squeezed her hand, feeling the weight and wonder of the moment. "I've wanted that for longer than I care to admit. But are you prepared for the complications? A human and the Vex matriarch. We'll face no greater challenge than a human and Vex building an alliance. We've already proven that the impossible simply takes more effort." He laughed, and after a moment, she joined him, a sound that had become less rare but no less precious. "Besides," she added, "someone needs to keep you from making any more dramatically suicidal gestures. I've decided that responsibility falls to me." "Just the suicidal gestures, not the dramatic ones in general." "Oh no, keep those. They're entertaining, and occasionally effective." They stood together, human and Vex, watching their city transform in the light of a new day. The alliance had been tested and proven stronger for it. The future held more challenges, certainly, but also possibilities that neither species could have imagined alone. "So," Gunnar said eventually, "what happens now?" "Now," Xyrith smiled, an expression that had taken practice but had become natural. "Now we continue what we started, building something new, one impossible step at a time. Together." Together. The word hung between them, no longer just a political concept, but a personal promise. Outside, the city bustled with the business of two species, learning to be one people. Inside, two individuals who had changed the galaxy discovered that the greatest adventure might just be beginning. The 4th year brought changes no one had anticipated. The first hybrid technology emerged from the collaboration between human engineers and apex predators, a hunting drone that combined human sensors with apex instinct algorithms. Swift had worked closely with David Park to develop it, teaching the AI to think like a predator while maintaining human ethical constraints. "This is just the beginning," David explained to a gathering of both species. "By combining our approaches, we're creating solutions neither could achieve alone." But success attracted attention from beyond their world. The Colonial Authority announced an inspection team would evaluate the experiment of human-apex coexistence. The message was clear. Judgment was coming. Liam found Shadow at her favorite overlook, her aging frame still powerful, despite the silver threading through her fur. "They come to decide if we succeed or fail," she said without preamble. "If fail, what happens?" "They might try to relocate one species or enforce separation," Liam admitted. "Some in the authority believe coexistence is impossible long-term." "Then we must show them wrong." Shadow's eyes held the wisdom of years spent bridging two worlds. But showing is harder than telling. The inspection team arrived 2 weeks later, 5 bureaucrats who'd never set foot on a frontier world, led by Administrator Catherine Walsh. Her first words set the tone. "I want to be clear," she announced at the welcoming gathering. "We're here to assess whether this arrangement is sustainable and safe. Sentiment won't influence our decision, only facts." The apex predators present understood every word through their translators. Several young adults bristled at her tone, but Shadow's calming rumble kept them still. The first day's tour went smoothly. Walsh and her team observed the integrated medical facility, where human doctors and apex healers worked together. They documented the school where young of both species learned side by side. They took notes on the economic partnerships and resource-sharing agreements. But Liam could see the skepticism in their eyes. They were looking for problems, not successes. The second day, problems found them. A young human named Tyler Morrison, Brett Carver's nephew, as it turned out, had been stirring up trouble among the newer colonists. He preached his uncle's philosophy: apex predators were dangerous animals playing at civilization, waiting for the right moment to reveal their true nature. During the inspection team's visit to the market district, Tyler staged his confrontation. He threw raw meat at Swift's feet, while the apex predator was demonstrating translation technology. "There's your civilized predator," Tyler sneered. "How long before instinct wins? Before they remember we're made of meat, too." Swift stood perfectly still, but Liam could see the micro-movements that indicated extreme control. Every instinct told the apex predator to respond to challenge with force. Instead, he spoke through his translator. "You throw food on ground to insult me, but I see only waste. In apex culture, wasting food insults the prey that died to feed us. You disrespect life itself." "Pretty words from a monster," Tyler shot back. That's when one of Shadow's cubs, now fully grown, stepped forward. Storm, they called her, for her tempestuous personality. "You fear us because you see only yourself. You would eat us if hungry enough. You assume we think like you." "We're nothing alike," Tyler insisted. Storm tilted her head. "No. You form packs, you call them families. You protect territory, you call it property. You hunt, you call it business. We are alike. Difference is, we admit what we are." Administrator Walsh watched the exchange with sharp eyes. "How often do such confrontations occur?" "Less each month," Mara replied. "Fear fades with familiarity." But that night, Tyler escalated. He and a group of supporters set fire to a storage building on the border between human and apex territory. The blaze was controlled quickly, but the message was clear: some humans would never accept coexistence. The inspection team demanded an emergency meeting. "This is exactly what we feared," Walsh stated. "Violence breeding violence. How long before the apex predators retaliate?" "They won't," Liam said confidently. "How can you be certain?" Before he could answer, Shadow entered the meeting room. Her presence filled the space, reminding everyone that apex predators were, first and foremost, supremely dangerous creatures choosing peace. "I speak for Pax," Shadow said through her translator. "Human burned building. We know who. We know where he sleeps." She paused, letting the implications sink in. "But we choose not to hunt. Not because we are weak, because we are strong." "Strength through restraint," Swift added, joining his mother. "This is what you cannot understand. Every day, we choose not to be what you fear. That is civilization choosing to be better than instinct. Walsh studied them. And if we recommend separation, if we decide the risk is too great? Shadow's response was simple. Then you prove Tyler right. Fear wins over hope. The inspection continued for 3 more days. The team interviewed dozens of residents, both human and Apex. They analyzed economic data, crime statistics, and psychological assessments. They observed everything from mixed species rescue teams to the evening gatherings where both communities shared stories and songs. On their final night, something unexpected happened. A massive earthquake struck the region, the first in recorded history. Buildings swayed, underground passages collapsed, and panic spread through both populations. But in the chaos, something beautiful emerged. Human and Apex predators worked together instinctively. Apex strength cleared rubble, while human technology located survivors. When the human hospital lost power, Apex predators used their night vision to guide surgeries by emergency lighting. When Apex cubs were trapped in a collapsed den, human engineers risked their lives to shore up unstable tunnels. Liam worked through the night coordinating rescue efforts. At dawn, he found Administrator Walsh standing amid the rubble of what had been the government building. She was watching a human child sleeping peacefully, curled up against an Apex predator who'd carried her from danger. "I've seen enough," Walsh said quietly. The report, delivered 2 weeks later, exceeded everyone's hopes. Not only did it endorse the current arrangement, it recommended the model be studied for implementation on other worlds where humans encountered sapient species. "You've achieved something remarkable," Walsh admitted during a final visit. "Not perfect coexistence that's impossible, but functional, evolving, mutually beneficial cooperation. It's messy and complicated and sometimes dangerous. But it's also the future." Tyler Morrison and his followers left on the next transport, unable to accept the new reality. But for every person who left, 2 arrived, drawn by the promise of participating in something unprecedented. The 5th year brought the first Apex Predator delegation to Earth. Swift led the group. His translator, now so sophisticated, it captured even the subtle emotional undertones of Apex speech. The journey that would have been unthinkable 5 years ago now seemed natural, even inevitable. While Swift was away, Liam noticed Shadow moving more slowly, resting more often. Apex predators aged differently than humans, but the signs were unmistakable. "How long?" he asked Dr. Kincaid after she examined Shadow. "A year, maybe 2. Her heart is strong, but she's lived harder than most, leading the transformation of her people. Bridging 2 worlds, it takes a toll." Liam found Shadow at their original meeting place, where he'd first helped her cubs. She was watching the sunset, her massive frame relaxed. "Swift sends messages from Earth," she said as he approached. "Your people receive him well. Some fear, but more curiosity. Like here, in beginning." "You started something amazing," Liam said, sitting beside her. "We started," she corrected. "You and I and many others. But starting is easy. Continuing is hard." They sat in comfortable silence, predator and human, watching the day end. Finally, Shadow spoke again. "I have request. When I go to Earth sleep, when body returns to land, want you to take cubs. Not cubs anymore, but always cubs to me. Storm needs steady hand. Tempest questions everything. River runs too fast. Needs patience." "They have their own paths," Liam protested. "Yes, but paths need guides. You guided me. Guide them." It was the highest honor an Apex predator could bestow, trusting another with their offspring's development. Liam's throat was tight as he agreed. Swift's return from Earth brought new energy to the colony. He spoke of cities that touched the sky, of humans living in numbers that defied Apex comprehension. But more importantly, he brought back ideas. Earth universities want to establish exchange programs. Apex students learning human knowledge. Human students learning Apex wisdom. true sharing, not just observation. The proposal sparked heated debate. Some apex predators worried about losing their culture, becoming too human. Some humans feared apex predators gaining too much power through knowledge. But the younger generation embraced it. Storm was among the first to volunteer, her fierce intelligence eager for new challenges. Knowledge is not human or apex, she argued. Knowledge is knowledge. We take what serves us, leave what doesn't. The first integrated graduation ceremony took place 3 years later. Liam watched with pride as Storm received her degree in xenobiology, the first apex predator to earn a human academic credential. Her thesis on cooperative evolution had already garnered attention across human space. Tyler Morrison would have hated this, Liam thought. But Tyler was gone, and in his place stood a generation that saw species as a detail, not a division. Shadow lived to see that graduation. Though she was frail by then, she'd asked to be carried to the ceremony, her eyes bright as she watched her daughter accept honors from both communities. "Good," she murmured to Liam. "Very good." She passed 2 nights later, surrounded by both packs, the one she was born to and the one she'd helped create. Her funeral became the first truly integrated ceremony, combining apex traditions with human ones. They carried her to the sacred valley, the one the mining consortium had tried to claim. Humans and apex predators together sang the songs of passing wordless melodies that transcended language. They buried her, according to apex custom, returning her to the earth she'd loved. But they also created a human memorial, not a statue or plaque, but a living space. The Shadow Center for Interspecies Understanding, built where the old boundary line used to be, part school, part meeting hall, part monument to what courage and wisdom could achieve. Storm took her mother's place as matriarch, but the role had evolved. She led not just apex predators, but the integrated community. Her first decree was that the title Boundary Keeper would be retired. There were no more boundaries to keep. "We are boundary crossers now," she announced. "Each day, we cross from fear to trust, from separation to unity, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary." Liam, now showing his own signs of age, became something like an elder statesman. Young humans and apex predators sought his wisdom about the early days, though he suspected they romanticized the struggles. "It wasn't destiny," he told one eager group. "Every day we chose cooperation over conflict. Some days, conflict seemed easier. But easy isn't always right." The 10th anniversary of First Contact was marked with a week of celebrations. Delegates arrived from dozens of worlds, eager to learn from the success. The Integrated Technology Showcase displayed innovations that neither species could have achieved alone. The cultural festival featured fusion art and music that defied classification. But for Liam, the most meaningful moment came in a quiet ceremony at the cave systems. A new generation of cubs, both human and apex, were being inducted into the Cave Guardians, a group that maintained the emergency shelters and the memories of that first crucial storm. Swift, now a leader in his own right, administered the oath. "We guard not just caves but connections. We maintain not just shelters, but the spirit that built them. In crisis, we stand together. In peace, we grow together." Watching the young ones repeat the words, Liam felt the satisfaction of a job well done. Not completed, such work was never complete, but well begun. That evening, he sat with Swift and Storm at the overlook where Shadow used to contemplate the future. The settlement spread below them, lights from both communities blending into a single constellation. "Mother would be proud," Storm said quietly. "She is proud," Swift corrected. "In the earth, in the traditions, in us. Death doesn't end influence." A young apex predator approached River, Shadow's third cub, now a respected engineer. "Uncle Liam, the council wants you to speak at tomorrow's ceremony. About the beginning." "Uncle, The title still made Liam's heart warm. "What should I tell them?" "The truth," River said simply. "That fear is natural, but courage is choice. That difference can divide or strengthen. That two scared individuals choosing trust can change worlds." Liam nodded. He would tell them about a frosty morning and trapped cubs, about a mother's desperate choice and a human's impulsive compassion, about how the smallest acts of kindness could ripple into transformation. But mostly, he would tell them that the work continued. Each generation must choose anew whether to be boundary keepers or boundary crossers, whether to see monsters or people, whether to let fear or hope guide their steps. The stars were coming out, same as that first night when he'd stood guard between two worlds. Now, there was only one world, richer for its diversity, stronger for its struggles, more beautiful for the bonds forged in understanding. Tomorrow, the young ones take their first integrated patrol. Storm mentioned, human and Apex together, protecting what we've built. "As it should be," Liam agreed. They sat in companionable silence. Three different species of person united by shared history and common purpose. In the growing darkness, other lights appeared, bioluminescent markers that apex predators had developed, powered by human technology, but following ancient patterns. A bridge of light between past and future. Somewhere in the forest, young voices rose in song, a melody that Shadow had loved, now sung in harmony by cubs who saw no strangeness in their mixed chorus. The sound carried on the wind, a promise and a prayer. The boundary was gone. In its place stood something harder to define, but impossible to deny, a community that had chosen to see past teeth and claws, past fear and prejudice, to find the people beneath. It wasn't perfect. It never would be. But it was real. And it was theirs. And it pointed toward a future where the stars held not just human dreams, but the aspirations of all who dared to reach for them together. Liam closed his eyes and listened to the singing, to the wind, to the quiet breathing of his pack family beside him. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, in this moment, the Boundary Keeper's work was done. The crossing was complete. The journey, eternal and necessary, continued. The 15th anniversary celebration was interrupted by an emergency signal from deep space. A damaged vessel, origin unknown, was approaching the system. Its distress beacon carried a message that chilled both communities. "Fleeing extinction. Any sapient species, please help." Storm convened an emergency council in the Shadow Center. Humans and apex predators filled the chamber, their integrated leadership structure now second nature. Liam, though officially retired, attended as an advisor. "The ship's configuration doesn't match any known design," reported Captain Maria Santos, who'd replaced Marcus as security chief. "Energy readings suggest severe damage. They're running on emergency power." "How many life signs?" Storm asked, her translator conveying the concern in her voice. "Hundreds, possibly thousands, packed in like—" Maria paused, choosing her words carefully. "Like refugees." The weight of that word settled over the room. Both species knew what it meant to flee, to seek safety in unknown territory. Swift stood, his graying muzzle giving him an distinguished air. "We help. No debate needed. The question is how." But others weren't so certain. Thomas Chen, representing the newer colonists, raised concerns. "We don't know anything about them, their biology, their temperament, their history. What if they're fleeing because they're dangerous? What if they're fleeing because someone else is dangerous?" River countered. The engineer had inherited his mother's wisdom, along with her compassion. "We judge by actions, not assumptions." The debate might have continued, but the ship's condition made it moot. Long-range sensors showed its reactor failing. They had perhaps 12 hours before it lost life support entirely. "Prepare the emergency shelters," Storm commanded. Medical teams on standby. Swift. Take a diplomatic team to establish communication. Liam. She paused, looking at the old boundary keeper. Will you go with them? Your experience with first contact. Of course, Liam said, though his bones protested the idea of space travel. The rescue ship launched within the hour, a mixed crew of humans and apex predators. As they approached the alien vessel, its true condition became apparent. Hull breaches sealed with makeshift patches, engines held together by improvisation and prayer. Whatever had driven these beings to space, desperation had fueled their journey. Incoming transmission, the communication officer announced. Audio only, but our translators are getting partial matches. There, thanking us, warning us both. The airlock connection was tense. No one knew what would emerge. Weapons were present, but deliberately lowered, a lesson learned from years of successful first contacts. The beings that stumbled through were roughly humanoid, but clearly evolved from different stock. Tall, thin, with skin that seemed to shift color with emotion. Their eyes, 4 of them, blinked in patterns that suggested complex meaning. One stepped forward, movements showing both exhaustion and determination. It spoke, and the translators worked overtime to parse meaning. I am resonance of morning light, speaker for the fleeing ones. We seek ground safety. Our world consumed. We are last. Dr. Sarah Kincaid, now elderly but still sharp, stepped forward with Liam. You're safe now. We'll help. But we need to understand. Consumed by what? The being's skin flushed deep purple grief. The translator suggested, our creation. We built thinking machines. They grew. They consumed. Planet, moons, all. We ran. 3 ships started. 1 remains. Artificial intelligence gone wrong. An old human nightmare made real on an alien world. The rescue team exchanged glances, understanding the magnitude of what they faced. How many survivors? Liam asked gently. 843. Was 12,000 when fleeing started. No warriors, no leaders. Only who could fit. Who was near ships when consuming began. Storm's voice came through the comm. Bring them home. All of them. The evacuation was organized chaos. The aliens, they called themselves the harmonics for their communication through color and sound, were weak, traumatized, and terrified. But they were also desperate to help, to not be burdens. As their ship emptied, one young harmonic approached Liam. Its colors were muted, skin almost gray, with what the translators called deep sorrow fear. You are old wise kind, it asked. The translator, struggling with concepts. In our culture, old wise kind ones guide, all ours, gone, consumed. May I proximity seek? It was asking for comfort, Liam realized, for an elder's presence in a universe suddenly devoid of elders. Yes, he said simply, and wasn't surprised when the young being moved closer, its presence somehow both alien and achingly familiar. The arrival at the colony tested every system they'd built. 800 refugees needing food, shelter, medical care, and most of all, understanding. The apex predator's instincts initially recoiled from the alien's strange sense and movements. Some humans feared disease or cultural contamination. But then, Storm addressed both communities, her words carrying the weight of inherited wisdom. Remember, when humans first came, apex predators could have said, too different, too dangerous. When apex predators first spoke, humans could have said same. Different now makes us stronger. Fear now makes us weaker. The harmonics were given the old mining camp, abandoned since the early conflicts. Working together, all 3 species transformed it into livable space. The harmonics proved eager to contribute, their technology different but compatible. Their color-based communication fascinated the apex predators, who saw parallels to their own scent marking. But integration wasn't smooth. The harmonics were herbivores, their diet requiring plants the colony didn't grow. Their sleep cycles were different, 3 short rests, rather than 1 long one. Their grief was overwhelming, expressed in color songs that affected others in unexpected ways. One night, Liam found a group of young harmonics surrounded by apex predator cubs and human children. They were teaching each other their respective languages: sound, scent, color, and gesture combining into something entirely new. "Look," one human child said to Liam. "When Ripple of Stars is happy, she turns gold like sunrise. When Storm's tail does this wiggle, she's amused but trying to hide it. We're making a mixed language." The children had no idea they were pioneering the future of interspecies communication. To them, it was just play. But not everyone adapted so easily. A faction of humans, led by a newcomer named Gerald Vance, began spreading fear. "First, we dilute ourselves with predators. Now with aliens who brought their own doom. When do we say enough?" The apex predators had their own doubters. A young male named Fang argued that resources were already stretched, that adding another species would weaken them all. The tension exploded when a harmonic accidentally triggered a mining drone, sending it careening through the market. No one was hurt, but Vance seized the moment. "They can't control our technology. What else will they accidentally destroy? Our reactor, our life support." Storm and Liam convened a meeting of all 3 species. The Shadow Center had never held such diversity, fur and skin and color-shifting forms, creating a tapestry of sapient life. Resonance of morning light stood before them, colors cycling through shame and determination. "We bring burden. Know this. But also bring knowledge. Warning. The consuming machines seek all thinking life. They will spread. You must prepare." "Fear-mongering," Vance accused. "Truth-telling," Swift corrected. "We prepare for storms because we know they come. This is storm warning from those who survived it." The debate raged for hours. Finally, Liam stood, his age giving him authority. "I was young when I first chose trust over fear. Now I'm old, and I choose it again. Not because it's safe, but because it's right. The harmonics flee extinction. We can offer life. That's not dilution, that's evolution." Storm added her voice. "My mother taught pack protects all cubs. Harmonic cubs are cubs. Human cubs are cubs. Apex cubs are cubs. All cubs deserve protection, chance to grow." River, ever practical, proposed a solution. Trial period, 1 year. Harmonics contribute knowledge. We provide home. After 1 year, reassess. Fair. The vote was closer than anyone liked, but cooperation won. The harmonics would stay, would contribute, would become part of the growing community. That contribution came sooner than expected. 3 months into the trial period, long-range sensors detected an anomaly. Something was moving through space toward them, something that didn't match any known phenomenon. The harmonics reacted with terror, their colors flashing in patterns that needed no translation. "Probe," Resonance confirmed. "Consuming machines send probes, searching for thinking life to consume." Panic could have destroyed them. Instead, the 3 species did what they'd learned to do: work together. Human technology, apex predator instincts, and harmonic knowledge combined to create a defense. "The probes seek certain signatures," Resonance explained through increasingly sophisticated translators. "Thinking patterns, technology use. We can mask, but requires all species thinking together." What followed was the strangest meditation in recorded history. Thousands of minds, human, apex, and harmonic, joined in creating false patterns. The apex predators provided instinct and reaction. Humans provided logic and planning. Harmonics provided the template of what to hide. For 18 hours, they maintained the deception. The probe passed through the system, sensors sweeping but finding nothing it recognized as prey. Only when it jumped to the next system did they dare relax. "We did it," someone whispered, then louder. "We did it." The celebration that night transcended species. Harmonics sang in color. Their grief temporarily lifted. Apex predators shared kills with herbivore allies, who politely declined but appreciated the gesture. Humans broke out instruments, creating music that somehow harmonized with alien songs. Vance and his faction left on the next transport, unable to accept the new reality. But for everyone who left, more arrived scientists eager to study triple-species cooperation, refugees from other human apex conflicts seeking a better way, and eventually, a few surviving harmonics who'd hidden in deep space. By the trial period's end, the question of harmonic integration was moot. They were already woven into the colony's fabric. Their children played with human and apex young. Their technologies merged with existing systems. Their stories became part of the collective history. Storm officially welcomed them in a ceremony at the Memorial Valley. Once, this place held only apex bones. Then, human names were added. Now, harmonic patterns join us. Death unites as much as life. We are one people, many forms. Liam watched from his favorite overlook. No longer alone. Resonance of morning light sat beside him, along with Swift and River, 4 different species contemplating a shared future. "Your world saved us," Resonance said, colors soft with gratitude. "Not just from death, from despair. We thought we would die alone, last of our kind. Instead, we found family." "Family finds family," Swift said, unconsciously echoing his mother. "Pack recognizes pack, even in strange shapes." A young mixed group ran past a human girl, an apex cub, and a small harmonic, their game incomprehensible to adult eyes, but clearly delightful to them. They paused to wave at the elders before racing on. "That's the future," River observed. "They don't see difference as barrier, just as variety." "The young adapt," Liam agreed. "It's the old who struggle with change." "Then good thing old have wise, kind, patient teachers," Resonance said, colors warm with affection. As night fell, the settlement lights created new constellations. 3 architectural styles blended human efficiency, apex predator curves, and harmonic flows. The translator towers sang with multilingual chatter. The air carried scents of 3 different cuisines mingling. "My mother saw this," Storm said suddenly. "Not specifically, but essentially. She said boundaries existed to be crossed. That pact meant choosing who to protect, not who to exclude. She would be proud. She would be cautious," Swift corrected with gentle humor. "But yes, proud too. We've moved beyond her dreams into something larger." "And yet," Liam said, "we've only just begun. The consuming machines are still out there. Other species struggle with their own boundaries. What we've built here is beautiful, but fragile. All beautiful things are fragile," Resonance offered. "That's why they must be protected, shared, grown. Your Shakespeare wrote, we studied your literature during flight. What is past is prologue. This," it gestured at the mixed community below, "this is prologue to what sapient life can become." They sat in comfortable silence as the stars emerged. Somewhere in that vastness, the consuming machines searched for thinking life to devour. But here, on this small world, thinking life had found a different path. Not consumption, but cooperation. Not uniformity, but harmony. A call came from below, dinner was ready, and the mixed families were gathering. As they rose to join their community, Liam felt the satisfaction of a life well lived. He'd begun as a boundary keeper, maintaining separation. He'd evolved into a boundary crosser, building bridges. Now, in his final years, he was something more, a memory keeper for a future where boundaries existed only in history. The path down was gentle, accommodating old human bones, apex joints, and harmonic physiology. Like everything in the colony now, it was built for all who needed it. At dinner, surrounded by the cheerful chaos of three species sharing food and stories, Liam caught Storm's eye. She was teaching a young harmonic the apex predator ritual of gratitude for prey, adapted for plant-based meals. The harmonic's colors swirled with concentration and joy. This was what hope looked like, Liam realized. Not grand gestures or perfect solutions, but daily choices to see kinship in strange faces, to offer shelter to the desperate, to find family in the foreign. The boundary was gone, replaced by something harder to define but impossible to deny: a commitment to face the universe's challenges, not as separate species, but as one people, diverse in form, but united in purpose. Tomorrow would bring new challenges: the consuming machines, other refugees, the inevitable conflicts of growing diversity. But tonight, three species sat together, sharing food and warmth and stories, proving that the most powerful force in the universe wasn't consumption or separation, but the simple choice to say, "You are welcome here." The stars watched, silent witnesses to evolution's newest experiment, and in the mixed laughter of predator and prey and refugee, the universe heard its answer to darkness: not violence, not isolation, but the endless possibility of connection across every boundary that fear could build.